The Isuzu MU-X has always been a popular vehicle with families and those that like to tow. But one criticism I've had is that they're really a basic vehicle. Moving forward, in 2021, Isuzu has given us this all-new vehicle. It's been redesigned from the ground up. It's longer, the roof is lower, and it's got more ground clearance. So there's certainly a lot to talk about. I think we should go and have a closer look at this vehicle and see just what makes it tick, because it is all new. Alright, we're starting at the front of the MU-X. We've got slimline bi-LED headlights here, which are a nice look and work really well at night as well. Now moving down, you've got your sensors for your parking, they're front and rear on this model, which is the LSU, the mid-spec. Here we've got some fog lights and also a newly redesigned grille. It's a more concise looking front end, and it's a lot more modern too, I feel, as well. Now here's another little unique feature to the new MU-X. The wipers have the washer jets built into the actual blade, so there's no nozzles here on the bonnet, so it's a nice clean look, and it's kind of unique, it's kind of different, it's kind of cool. Another important update for four-wheel drivers is the roof load capacity has been increased to 100 kilos, so you can now have a roof rack up there and a fair bit of gear, safely and legally. Well, that about rounds out the front end design changes, but in keeping with this modern, more aggressive and sleeker styling, if we go down the side and take a look at the back windows, you can see a massive design change has occurred in this section here. Now this window redesign is going to be a bit polarising. Some people are going to love it and some people aren't. Now it certainly does seem to rob you of a little bit of visibility, but it's a modern design change, and you can see the whole package looks really good. It's a very sleek looking vehicle and a big jump forward from the previous generation MU-X. Keeping in line with the modern updates, you've got keyless entry here. So if you've got your bags, you don't need to get your key out to lock or unlock the door. And if you walk away 3 meters, it'll automatically lock the vehicle. Nice for your safety and peace of mind. Now, considering how many people are going to be towing with this new MU-X, it's good to see a nice quality mirror here with a lot of safety tech built into it. Now, there are 3 models in the new MU-X lineup. You've got your base LSM, the LSU, which we've got here today, and the top of the tree LST. Now, one way to tell the difference between these vehicles is the wheels. So the base model has 17s, this mid-spec has 18s, and top of the line, 20-inch. Not really off-road friendly, is it? But they need them because the brakes have been upgraded so significantly. Very, very good braking package. Well, brakes are important, but let's be honest, they're just holding you back in life. Let's take a look at what's pushing you forward with this new motor. Well, there she is, the new 4JJ3 motor, the same as the D-Max. Now it's got 140 kilowatts and 450 Newton meters of torque. And while on paper that mightn't be as impressive to say as the new Hilux, this motor really pulls. It's a strong performer with a lot of bottom end grunt. So what are we seeing in here? Well, first of all, you can notice there's this easy pathway here to fit a snorkel. This has been done on purpose. There's a hole already cut, so you just need to put a hole here. Really easy to install a snorkel. You can get a genuine snorkel or raised air intake from Isuzu, and they're ready to go. Now, coming from the airbox, you've got the turbo mounted up nice and high, and bolted directly to that is the diesel particulate filter. That's an important thing to note because it's going to get the maximum amount of heat bolted directly to the turbo. So fingers crossed, you're not going to have any DPF issues with this vehicle. It's a very concise engine package as well. It's a 3-litre motor, but it doesn't take up too much space. In saying that, there's not that much space for a second battery. So I'm not sure what the aftermarket's going to do there. Hopefully someone more clever than I am can come up with a solution to get a second battery in the engine bay. Well, that's the front end of the vehicle done. Let's go and take a look at the back. There's been some significant changes to the back of the new MU-X as well. Not only has it been redesigned, it's also a lighter tailgate, so it's much easier to lift. Not that you need to, because you can control it with your key now. So if we hold this button down, off you go. That's a handy function if you've got your hands full of groceries and things like that. But something that's not so handy, and it's one reason this vehicle could do with a lift kit, look at that. Now that I've mentioned that, I'm a little bit cautious getting underneath here, but we have to have a look in the back, don't we? So 7-seater, which is really good for families. It also has this nice little hutch here for storage. You can put some snatch straps or cans of food, things like that. You know, it's nice to see no wasted space. We've got some tie down points in the back here, which is always a handy thing to see. Now, as mentioned, this is a 7-seater. So how do you move the seats up and down? Let's do it on this one. It's really simple. You just pull this and you can put the seat at any angle you want to. Well, you can see this seat's up at the moment in the third row. If we fold it down, as simple as that, that's how much cargo space you've got. It's also a flat cargo floor. And while we are at the back of the vehicle, here is an Isuzu factory fitted tow bar. And the important thing about this is it's now rated to tow 3.5 tonne. Now that's class leading for the 7-seat mid-size wagon category. Let's close up this tailgate and take a closer look inside the MUX. All right, inside. Now, if you've sat inside a new D-Max, this is going to be pretty familiar, but it's all new for the MUX. A really modern dash, a really modern interior layout. Now, starting with the seats, they're very comfortable. In this spec, they are cloth, but if you go up to the LST, you're going to get leather. Now, personally, I really like these cloth seats because you don't slide around too much inside, and they've got these nice side bolsters, so very, very comfortable seating. Now, what stares you straight in the face is this huge 9-inch touchscreen. Okay, in this mid-spec model MUX, you do get the 9-inch touchscreen. If you go to the lower spec, it's a 7-inch. Android Auto compatible, and also Apple CarPlay. It's got everything you need. It's a very sleek little unit. I shouldn't say little, it's quite large. Now, moving down, we take a closer look at the controls here for your climate, your dual zone climate. Very, very simple to use, up and down. No crazy knobs, really easy to use when you're driving, which is very important. Moving down from there, we have a 12-volt point and a USB point. But this is when the fun starts. This is where the good stuff happens. There's a new modern gearbox in this MUX, and as such, the styling for the interior has also been changed. Now, for the four-wheel drivers out there that want to add accessories, like we all do, we've got some spare points here to fit things like driving lights and other accessories down the track. Very important to think about. Now, moving down to the lower end of the center console, you've got a very simple four-wheel drive selector here. Two-wheel drive high range, four-wheel drive high range, and four-wheel drive low range. And a rear differential lock. An exciting addition though, is this button here, which is called rough terrain mode, which Isuzu tells us is basically a traction control calibration. So if a wheel starts spinning, it should send drive to the wheel with grip. We'll find out later if that works or not. But there's also one thing that I'm not a fan of, which is the electronic handbrake. Now, in terms of storage, there are 12 cup holders in this vehicle. 12, that is insane. Starting with these excellent slide out ones here. Great to keep your drinks cold. But yeah, there are 12 cup holders. There are more cup holders in this car than there are airbags. There are 8 airbags and 12 cup holders. That's impressive. So that's where you put your cups. Where are you going to put your other things like your phones or your wallet? Well, you've got a center bin here. Not too big, but it is fairly deep. Probably get a can in there. As well as that, there's this top little gull wing, which would be really good for phones. Got a little shelf in there. And then a traditional glove box with not much room because it's filled with all this literature. Speaking of phones, this is a really good spot to put it so you can charge it via the USB. And because you have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay built in, there's no excuse to touch your phone. It's a very good safety feature. Everything's controlled through this touchscreen. The steering wheel. Now, to me it feels a little bit small, but that's a personal choice. It does have all the features you need in here to control phone calls and radio and stuff like that, so it is functional. Now, it is adjustable both in terms of reach and tilt, so you can get it just where you want it. And that is a very handy feature for people like me that have very long legs. Well, in summary, I think Isuzu's done a very good job of achieving a balance between a sporty design but also a practical design that feels somewhat luxurious. You've got these hard-wearing surfaces, they're going to be easy to clean and look after, and some nice soft touch surfaces just to finish it off and give you a little bit of class. That's enough of the specs out of the way. Let's go and have some fun and take this thing off-road. So what do we know? The chassis has been redesigned, the suspension's been redesigned, the brakes are new and upgraded, there's an 80-litre fuel tank, we've now got rough terrain mode, we've now got a rear diff lock. So there's plenty to talk about with this MUX. It's not just a facelift, this is a new model after all. So we're going to get crossed up here. This wheel's just about to drop down, and let's see what happens. Nothing. Okay, it's not moving, we've stopped. Now if I push this rough terrain mode, engage it on a dash. It works. Awesome. Awesome, rough terrain mode works. It's not a gimmick, guys. That's very handy. Finally, an MUX with decent traction control. And yes, you do have the rear diff lock, but sometimes It's nice to have something else. So with all these updates and revisions, I think the MUX is now a genuinely competitive vehicle off-road. It's not just a 7-seater designed to haul the family around, and it's not just a tow rig. It's something that can do a bit of everything. Now certainly it can tow. We know that Isuzu owners love to tow, and it can definitely carry people around. Now I wouldn't really want to be an adult sitting in the third row doing this sort of bumpy off-road stuff, because it's just not the sort of headroom you want. But for your kids, it'd be perfectly fine. The middle row seating is fantastic. It's very, very comfortable. These are the front seats. See, I'm not sliding around, I'm not moving around. My back feels nice, and we've been doing this all day. I could keep doing it all day. I love doing this stuff. Well, that's the off-road loop completed, and I can say so far, the gearing's great. Very well suited for steep off-roading. Hill descent control, I'm not a big fan of it. I never have been, and I think the gearing's good enough you don't need it. Traction control, not that great until you push the rough country mode. That's pretty good. If that doesn't work, you've got a rear diff lock. Stronger CV joints, maintenance-free wheel bearings, so you don't have to service them every 40,000 Ks. Suspension's been beefed up, redesigned rear 5-link suspension, redesigned front suspension. It's just a lot to talk about. So this is just the first drive of the vehicle to get our initial impressions, and so far, I think this is a bit of a winner. All right, we're just about to pull out on the highway here, and let's see what these NVH levels are like. And how fast it accelerates. We're in 110 zone. It's at 110, about 1500 RPM. That's pretty good. Sorry, the previous generation MUX was a bit of a truck on road in terms of noise. Now this is certainly improved. Electronic steering, very good feel at highway speed. It's definitely firmed up. Now fuel economy. Well, Isuzu tell us that this new motor, the same that's found in the D-Max, the 4JJ3, has reduced consumption over the older 4JJ1. The thing I like about this motor is it's just torquey, full of torque. Okay, we've pulled off the highway. Now we've hit these forestry trails, which are just disgustingly rutted out. Muddy, wet, brilliant fun, brilliant fun. Now I'm in two-wheel drive at the moment, but I'm doing 50 Ks an hour. I'm just gonna put it into four-wheel drive high range, and that's selected. That's super easy and super quick. Now what would I like to see done to this? Well, I like the feel of the suspension, but I'd love more height. Fit some bigger tyres, more aggressive tyres as well, and you're onto a good thing. Then I'll be looking at bar work, especially on the front. It's just a solid performer on these dirt roads. Going probably a little bit too fast over these crazy potholes, and if you're in a D-Max Ute, you'd be getting bucked around. So it's safe to say the suspension tune dialed in very well. So what we want to do now is try and find some harder stuff, see if we can get it crossed up and really test that traction control system. Well, it's been a fun couple of days living with the new MUX, the 2021 version. Now, what can we say? Well, it's light years ahead of the previous model. It's so much more refined, there's so many more features, and it's a better performer off-road. It's a heap better than the previous model. It's a big, big jump forward for the MUX brand. But at the same token, this vehicle's nearly $60,000 before drive away. And this is only the mid-spec, this isn't even the top spec. So you're certainly paying for the privilege of all these extra inclusions. Now, do I feel that that's worthwhile? I do personally. I think you're getting a lot of extra kit for your money, but you still have to spend the money. It's a big jump forward from what was a fairly budget-friendly family option. This is now a more premium option. It's a good thing though, I reckon. I'm looking forward to putting some more Ks on this car.